My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
When we hear the Middle East, most people automatically think of war, terrorism, and corrupt governments. Ever since World War I, there has been intense conflict in the Middle East, from the multiple wars between Palestine and Israel to the rise of powerful terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
A country that has especially felt the effects of these hostilities is Iraq. Iraq has been plagued with conflicts for decades, creating the unstable state we know now. Though attempts for democracy have been made, the future for Iraq remains uncertain.
The beginnings of the Iraqi conflict emerged when the Gulf War started on August 2, 1990. Saddam Hussein, the tyrannical leader of Iraq, led an invasion into Kuwait to take advantage of its rich oil resources. He was instead met with a coalition of forces from 32 countries. The Iraqis were forced out of Kuwait and had to face the repercussions of sanctions and restrictions on weapons of mass destruction.
This, along with the terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers, influenced U.S. leaders to plan an attack on Iraq. On March 20th, 2003, U.S. forces marched into Iraq with the aim of toppling the government and capturing Saddam Hussein. By May of 2003, President Bush announced the end of major combat.
So you can imagine the tension throughout the entire Persian Gulf, even in Dubai, which is very good working relations with the U.S. and coalition.
And by December of the same year, U.S. troops captured Hussein. The arrest of Hussein created a changing point in Iraqi history. For 24 years, Iraqi citizens were subject to Saddam Hussein's brutal regime. He used poison gas to kill the Kurds, silenced the voices of citizens by jailing and torturing them, and killed thousands of soldiers by thrusting them into wars. By casting Hussein out of his seat of power, the Iraqis had a chance for freedom that they hadn't seen in decades. But this hope quickly diminished.
Iraq was split into two Islamic groups, with the Sunnis, whose leader was just captured, and the Shias, who were oppressed for many years. With Hussein gone, the Sunnis lost their power and government to the majority Shia population. This led the Sunnis to resort to join terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda so they could continue to hold power in the political sphere. Al-Qaeda performed many attacks on the Shia, a notable one being the suicide bombings on the Shiite holy sites. This killed hundreds of people. This intense sectarianism fueled the creation of ISIS, which was stricter and more radical than Al-Qaeda.
Many insurgencies occurred against U.S. troops, lengthening their stay in Iraq considerably.
So when we got there, really, our mission was to try to one, build a government that could sustain in the absence of this very authoritarian dictatorship, create a military that could protect themselves from their neighbors, Iran, and to help rebuild infrastructure throughout the country that had been severely damaged. That's the downfall is a great way to help take over a country is to eliminate infrastructure. So the downfall is we did that, and then we had to come in and rebuild and create and make it better.
Many Iraqis have expressed their thoughts about the U.S. occupation of Iraq, saying no amount of reminders about Saddam's brutality can force them to accept the necessity of invasion.
I just feel like every time that you had the ability to show that you weren't a bad person and that you were supporting them, it was a good thing to do. So
the constant unrest post-war made citizens long for the structure during Hussein's rule, though it was obtained through harsh rules. So, which is better, dictatorship or democracy?
Democracy was introduced to Iraq in 2005, with the voting of a full-term government and the approval of their new constitution happening in December. This was the first time Shias, Sunnis, and Kurds all came together and shared power in government. Because they were the majority group in Iraq, Shias won the majority of parliament, and this win angered the Sunnis, who believed that the votes weren't counted right so that they wouldn't have a presence in politics. Foreign countries also controlled Iraq's government. The U.S., with its strong military power, oversaw much of what happened in the government, overseeing the elections and impeding certain groups such as the Baathists from gaining power.
The two countries are vastly different. The average Iraqi was fairly well educated, and even with that education, they were still very accustomed to this very authoritarian way to live and things that you couldn't do. And in us, and I'll say, I think anytime we try to change a country's way, whether it be Iraq, Afghanistan, another country that we go into, we have to realize that it takes way more than one generation to change that society. And Americans really don't have that kind of tenacity. And so when we pull out before if we leave and don't support that government until there's been more than one generation living through that type of government, I don't think we're ever going to see us achieve the goals that we really think we will. And I think we're short-sighted if we think we can change a society into a mini democracy or a constitutional republic or anything like we have in shorter than probably 60 years.
Iran also had large influence on Iraqi politics because of its shared Shia and anti-American beliefs. These connections caused heavy influence in government, causing leaders to not truly represent the wants and needs of their citizens.
It's a hostile place. I mean, you have some who, like I said earlier, some of them who are happy we're there because they want to be liberated, they want a better quality of life. Women want a better quality of life. You're talking about a country who's been around for centuries, and they have one way of thinking. And then, of course, you're met with the opposite. The terrorist organizations, the ones who wanted to stay the same, the ones who want to run it based on fear.
Though Iraq's new democracy had flaws, it was able to create influence in the Middle East. With the dictator Hussein ousted from his position of power, other people in the Middle East saw that their oppressors could be removed as well. This influenced the movement in 2011 called the Arab Spring, where people in the Middle East and Northern Africa fought over matters such as religion, human rights, and sectarianism. Many countries are still fighting over these matters today, but Tunisia was able to create a democratic government out of this movement. The Iraq War marked a pivoting point for the history of the Middle East in the 20th and 21st century, showing the world that democracy can overpower dictatorship. The end of Saddam Hussein's rule created the chance of a brighter future for Iraq, but it also showed the consequences of getting overly involved in foreign affairs. The invasion has changed the views that the Middle East has on America and vice versa for Americans. The implementation of democracy highlighted the struggles of creating new government structures in highly radicalized states. However unclear Iraq's fortunes may be, the introduction of democracy into the country has given hope to its citizens.